If I asked you what the biggest balancing problem is in TC2, what would you say? Marksman? Stickies? Trollger? While there are many valid complaints for classes, weapons, and playstyles, I'd like to bring to attention the actual biggest balancing problem currently in TC2. It's a mechanic everyone hates, but just sort of forgets about until it rears its ugly countdown: respawn timers. You may wonder how exactly respawn times affect balance, and may think they should be removed entirely. After all, being forced to sit back and do nothing isn't exactly fun, and I'd agree with you on that. I also like to play the video game, but respawn times are integral to allow a team to make a push and take advantage of the effort they put in to make that push happen. Before delving into TC2's respawns, let us go to TF2 as a prime example to be followed. We can see that respawn timers are delicately crafted not only for every map, but conditions happening inside those maps. A lot of thought and planning went into implementing respawn times in order to be fair yet fun. So allow me to give you a quick rundown on how the most important aspects of how TF2's respawn times work. First off, the two rules of respawn times is that you will always get a 5-second death cam tacked onto your respawn time, and you will always experience the full duration of a respawn wave. If you die at a time where the death cam will interfere with getting the full respawn wave time, then you'll be put into the next respawn wave. Take for example a map where you have 10-second respawn waves. If you die at a time where at the end of your 5-second death cam there will be less than 10 seconds left before the next respawn wave, you will be put into the next one. These rules apply to all durations of respawn times except 0-second respawn waves, where you will respawn as soon as your death cam ends. Next, respawn timers are adjusted for specific game modes and game states. Take King of the Hill for example. If neither team has a hill, both teams get the same respawn times. If one team has it, they will get longer respawn times than the team that isn't holding it. This simple comeback mechanic in the respawn times also applies to player destruction, where the team in the lead gets a longer respawn time than the losing team. Things get much more complicated when we delve into the world of asymmetrical maps like payload, attack defend, and somewhat also control points. A general rule followed is that offense gets a shorter respawn but a long walk to the objective, and defense gets a long respawn but short walk. This is a very simple way to put it, but many other factors also go into deciding respawn times, including map geometry itself and the fact that offense is harder than defense. Take for example the start of a payload match. Despite the objective being directly inside offense spawn, offense still gets a much shorter respawn time because defense has set up a defensive hold that offense must break through. So with TF2's respawns explained, how does TC2's work? Well, unfortunately, there isn't much documentation on how it operates. Unlike TF2, the wiki mentions nothing of it, so I went and did a whole bunch of testing myself. So everything here is approximate, but I'm pretty confident in my results. First off, the two main rules of respawn times is that you will always get a 5-second death cam tacked onto your respawn time, and you'll always experience at least 1 second of respawn time. And well, nearly everything else is the same. All the respawn times, it changes based on game states, sometimes. Everything in the TF2 imported maps are the same as their TF2 counterpart. So what's the goddamn point of this video? Well, you probably noticed that there's only one key difference between TC2 and TF2, that being how much of the respawn time you're forced to go through. But hoo boy, what a change that is. That one difference completely ruins the game balance and disregards a key reason for why respawn waves exist at all. 10 seconds is the default respawn time in TF2, so let's work off that. Because of the rules laid out, the maximum respawn time you'll get is 20 seconds, and the minimum respawn time is 10 seconds. However, in TC2, the maximum respawn time you'll get is 10, and the minimum is 1 second. This is what I mean by completely ruins the game balance. Because of how the respawn rules are, both offense and defense will have the same minimum respawn time of 1 second. This is why games are rigged from the start. It doesn't matter if defense has 10-second respawn waves or 30-second respawn waves, there's still a very real chance the guy you just killed respawns in just a few seconds, which completely goes against one of the main reasons respawn waves exist. In a blog post older than most TC2 players, Robin Walker, a lead TF2 dev, goes into detail as to why respawn waves were implemented and what they're meant to accomplish. One of which being that they're meant to provide a grace period after a strong offensive push, so you get time to focus on the objective, which is obviously impossible to do with such short respawns. If you ever find yourself pushing a point and wondering where the fuck all these people are coming from, this is why. They just keep respawning way too quickly to be able to do anything at all. All your focus will be on killing the unending stream of enemies and never getting a break to do the objective. This is, in fact, not how the game is meant to be played. One of the most important examples of this would be on the final point of a payload map. Take Badwater for example. The final point is right outside of defense's spawn, so defense has 10-second respawn waves, which means after a successful push, offense gets 10 to 20 seconds or more to push the objective. But in TC2, the minimum you get is 1 second. That is nowhere enough time to take advantage of the push. By the time you get to the cart, defense will have already respawned. Like, this is ridiculous. I'm sure everyone has experienced this. I've had it happen in countless games. You want to win the game? Going defense will always be your best bet since the game is literally rigged in your favor. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible to win on offense, but with relatively fair teams, it takes a ridiculous amount of effort, coordination, and most importantly, luck. Compared to how much effort goes into defending, it's an extremely imbalanced amount of work needed to win. It's just not fair, plain and simple. And that isn't even the end of it. These respawns also make Doctor a much weaker class. A Doctor can spend a large amount of time building up an Uber to get a push in and take the point, but when the team you're pushing on all respawn nearly as fast as your Uber finishes, then all of that was for literally nothing. The mechanic is the opposite. Since you can't rely on respawn times to let you push, the only thing left to give you a break is to walk from spawn to the front line. But throw a teleporter or two into the mix and you have an infinite line of instantly respawning enemies you will never have a single chance of breaking through. It's crazy. So how do we fix it? Well, simple. Annoyingly simple. Just require players to experience the full duration of a respawn wave like TF2. The hardest part is that everyone will complain about it. You can always tell who hasn't played TF2 if they're complaining about TC2 respawn times being too long. The problem with not implementing this from the start is that now TC2 players are conditioned that they'll always have short respawns, unknowingly at the cost of balanced gameplay. It'll be a tough pill to swallow, but everyone's gonna have to get used to it for the game's balance sake, especially with competitive in development. Oh my god, could you imagine this shit in competitive? So I've only been talking about TF2 maps imported into TC2, so what are the respawn times of TC2 unique maps? I wanted to know for sure, so I've gone and studied the respawns on every map, so here's a full comprehensive list. Wait, why do both teams have 10-second respawns? This is a payload map, not CTF. Why the hell do both teams have 10-second respawns on all checkpoints? I don't have to explain how that's really stupid, do I? Because I just did. Go back to 2 minutes 12 seconds and rewatch it if you have to. I know I was just complaining that long respawn waves don't matter because everyone gets the same minimum respawn, but at least offense would get a shorter maximum. And if my proposed changes were to be implemented, they would make this even worse. I first thought of making this video when I noticed both teams can respawn as fast as 1 second and thought it was silly. I didn't realize just how bad it was. This video is titled Typical Colors 2 is fundamentally broken after all, and it's so much worse than just short respawns. You may notice a lot of maps were missing from that comprehensive list, and that's because the respawn times on every one of those missing maps are completely fucking random. Yes, that's right. If you start up a TF2 imported map, one with the respawn times imported, and start spamming killbind, you'll see you consistently get a 1 second variance between how long your respawn is, depending on how quickly the game realizes you've killbinded. This is because spamming killbind will consistently always line you up with the next respawn wave. What should be impossible is having any more than a 1 second variance. So tell me, why the hell am I getting 1 second, 15 second, and everything in between second respawn times on some maps? It's because they're completely random. It turns this generally competitive leaning game into a fucking casino. Okay, maybe not that bad. I thought short respawns were bad for the actual competitive mode, but this is a whole league of its own. Pushing the final point of a map becomes a gamble on whether or not you win because the enemy team gets a 15-second respawn wave or lose because it was 1 second. I can understand why some people would be upset at my proposal to make respawns longer, but how can you not get mad at this? Look at this clip on Liana. On defense last, you can get a respawn time of anything between 1 second and 12 seconds. Here, I spin the metaphorical slot machine, get a 3-second respawn, and win the entire game because of it. Not only should I not be getting a respawn that short at all in the first place playing on defense on the last point, but this win was entirely because I played the respawn time slots and got a fucking jackpot. Absolutely no skill involved. This random respawn curse is on Attack Defend maps Isolated, Liana, Liftoff, Deadfall Ridge, and Financial, payload maps Banana Shore, Blastport, Calamity, Evade, and Manufacturing, and somehow even infected fucking CTF map Double Fort. CTF map respawns are so easy to do, what happened? Even some event maps based on TF2 maps got the curse. You know, those maps based on already existing maps that have predetermined respawns? How does Gorge Event have random respawns when Gorge doesn't? I have literally no idea how this made it through development without coming to the conclusion that Dorcas completely disregards respawn waves as an integral and needed mechanic to balance TF2 and TC2. But you're not going to believe it, it gets even worse. For every control point map in the game, the green team has 10-second respawn waves. No matter how many points are or are not captured, green will always have 10-second waves. Red, on the other hand, random. How does this even happen and go unnoticed? I'm seriously at a loss for words. This game has been fundamentally broken for years, and not a single person has noticed. Which is apparently common, so just another day of being a TC2 enjoyer, I guess. To say the respawn wave system needs a complete and utter overhaul would be an understatement, and it needs to happen immediately. First off, remove random respawn times, obviously. Next, they need to actually give every map custom respawn waves that fit for them. And finally, make players experience a full respawn wave duration. Once these get put in place, then games will actually start being fair and balanced. I really don't have any more to say on this, except I hope this brought these issues to light and something gets done. I am fully aware this video is not going to get the most positive of receptions, since people do like short respawns, but since this affects literally everyone, the question is, do you want short respawns or fair games you can actually win? That's up to Dorcas to decide, and I cannot wait to see what they think is the best option for TC2.